And then right as she's about to go in, she like pops her head back out and is like, oh, I forgot to mention, you might see some side effects, maybe a little bit of acne, some weight gain. Are you okay with that? Not really. Welcome back. Today we're gonna be talking about IUDs. My experience getting an IUD, the process, them putting it in incorrectly, the pain, and all of the side effects that came after I got my IUD in. And I decided to get an IUD after I graduated college. Well, I guess this is when I first started thinking about it. I had had a couple of friends that had talked about getting an IUD and how easy and nice it was not to take a pill every day. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I forgot to take my birth control pill more frequently than not. So that was very appealing to me. And at the time, I was also reading the book Woman Code. If you haven't read it, highly recommend if you want to learn more about your body. And it talked a lot about how the pill can impact your body, not necessarily in a bad way, but just the impact that it did have. So I was really interested in getting an IUD because I read that they have less or even no hormones at all. And I was really interested in seeing how my body was not with a bunch of hormones in it from the pill. So that was very appealing. I did some research. I learned that there are a bunch of different kinds of IUDs that you can get. And I took all my Google research and my book and I went to the gynecologist. She did an ultrasound, which is what you have to do to get an IUD. And as I was analyzing the results with her of the ultrasound, she did tell me that I had some cysts on my ovaries, which from my understanding doesn't really mean anything on its face, but it could mean that you have PCOS. And that was just a fun little tidbit I had to keep in mind as I was picking out my IUD, but I did find that out from an ultrasound. So always good to check in and see what's going on down there. That was also one of the reasons why I wanted and was interested in an IUD that had less hormones in it, so I could kind of see how that impacted my body and if it was PCOS. So I did all this research and I went to the gynecologist. All happened when I was like 23. This was right before the pandemic happened, and as you all know, that really put a pause in everything. So after the pandemic, I shouldn't even say after, this was like 2021, I went back to a new gynecologist. Don't know what happened to the old one that I went to. Did I just forget who she was? Did I decide to switch it up? I honestly couldn't tell you. I got a recommendation from a friend and went to a gynecologist in my neighborhood. She's still here. Amazing. I felt so comfortable with her. She gave me all the information. I told her everything that I was concerned about, told her about the cysts on my ovaries, and we figured out that the best option for me would be the Copper IUD, which is the Paragard. You can have it in for like 10 years, take it out whenever you want, and it has no hormones. So that was a really good mesh of what I wanted, which was to see how my body was without any hormones and also to still protect against pregnancy, which is a important one. So we're now at like May 2021 at this point. After I picked out the IUD that I wanted with my gynecologist, she was like, we actually have that in stock. Let's go ahead and schedule this for tomorrow. How does that work? And I was like, dang, okay, that's really fast. I wasn't expecting all that. I heard that getting an IUD was painful, so I was, hoping to mentally prepare myself. I hadn't done any mental preparation before that, obviously. So I was like, yeah, okay, if I don't do this tomorrow, then I probably will just back out and not get it. So let's just go all in. So we get there the next day of, I'm in the little gown, my feet are on the stirrups. The doctor has her little glasses on and her flashlight. She probably didn't have a flashlight, but I feel like it was dark in the room. And then right as she's about to go in, she like pops her head back out and is like, oh, I forgot to mention, you might see some side effects, maybe a little bit of acne, some weight gain. Are you okay with that? Not really, but I mean, I guess if you're already in there, like with the IUD in your hand, sure. I'm not gonna back out now, but I definitely would have wanted to know that information beforehand because maybe I would have thought about it for a tiny bit longer. I didn't really have a choice at that point though. I mean, I did, but I was just like, okay, sure, I would love to gain weight and get some acne. Let's keep going. I tried to just forget she even said that and let her do the rest of the procedure. So when I was getting the actual IUD in, it really felt, I feel like I have a high pain tolerance, not to like, but I really do feel like I have a high pain tolerance. And when I was getting it inserted, I wouldn't say that it was painful, but it was more so just very, very uncomfortable. Then there was a very distinct pinching, which just felt like the worst sharp period cramp I had ever experienced. I've never experienced anything like that, but that's what it felt like. Like, that's what the worst period cramp I could ever experience would feel like. And it only lasted for a couple of seconds, and then it calmed down, but it was very, very uncomfortable, and I was very, very crampy. And then after she finished, the whole process really lasted only like 10 minutes, and there was the gynecologist there and a nurse, and they were very supportive and talked me through the entire thing, so I wasn't just sitting there in silence concentrating on the pain that I was having. And after it was done, she kind of gave me a second to sit there and just kind of chill, because I was feeling a little bit lightheaded, and I definitely didn't want to just get up, put my clothes on, and walk out. So I took a second, hung out, let the lightheadedness pass, got dressed, and then left. Then got back to my apartment and still had to work that day, which I wish I had taken off, because what I ended up doing was just crawling into my bed and trying to pretend like I was still working. I was really uncomfortable. I had really bad cramps and did not want to be doing anything else but curling up into a ball. The next day, I also still had pretty bad cramps. I didn't work out or anything. I really tried to keep things light and easy on my body. I was spotting both of these days, and I was actually spotting up until I went back 2 weeks later, where they do another ultrasound to check if the IUD was placed right. Because when you get an IUD, it's a blind procedure. You know, they can't really see up there where they place it, since they have to put it in your uterus. So 2 weeks later, I went back, got an ultrasound, and as I'm in there with the technician, she's looking at my stomach, doing what she needs to do. And something was just off. I could feel by the way she was looking at the screen, and I could see the screen. And I could see by the way she kept going back to one spot, kept looking at it, kept looking again, taking a bunch of photos, making all these notes. I was like, is everything okay? She was like, you'll have to talk to the gynecologist. And I was like, are you just gonna give that information to me without anything else and just let me sit there feeling like I'm going to have a panic attack or something because something might be wrong with my IUD that's in my uterus where I have children? Anyways, not to be dramatic about it, but I was feeling very dramatic in the moment. So after the technician finished, I went into my gynecologist's office. I had like a hold of an appointment there in case anything was wrong. They were pretty confident that it was going to be fine though. So when I got there, the gynecologist who did the procedure, the lady that I loved, made me feel comfortable, she wasn't available. She was in another appointment. So they said the only gynecologist that you could talk to for the next couple of hours, Dr. I don't know, Jared or something, but it was a male doctor. And I don't know about you, but I just prefer a woman gynecologist. I don't even feel like I need to explain myself with that. So I went and talked to the male doctor, and I was on the verge of tears. I was like, first of all, is this gonna like, I didn't even know what to say. I was like thinking the worst things possible. I can't have kids anymore. Something's wrong with my uterus, because the technician just didn't give me anything. So when I went to talk to the gynecologist, he kind of sat me down, looked at the results of the ultrasound, and was like, okay. He's like, everything is fine. Your IUD, it looks like a T, but in my uterus, it kind of like had a wonky arm. So the arm was like, it kind of looked like this in my uterus. Like the arm was like rested on, I think, one of my ovaries. Does that make sense? It was resting on something. Maybe it's not my ovaries. I need to look at a graph or something. It was wonky. It wasn't correct. And I was like, so what does that mean? What do we do? He said that I'm still protected against pregnancy. He's like, there's nothing wrong with the arm being there. That happens fairly often, and it's okay. It's not going to do any harm to you, and you're still protected against pregnancy. He was like, if you want us to schedule an appointment to take it out and put it back in, we can, but that would really just be for your own peace of mind. There's nothing wrong with it being there like that. And that really, it was honestly really helpful. He was really, really nice, and I really appreciate it. I think he could really sense how stressed out I was about it, and it made me feel really comfortable. So I left feeling a little bit better. I didn't want to take it out and put it back in. I had like just done that whole thing, and it didn't feel worth it to me. I felt I could trust what he was saying. And I also had scheduled another appointment to come in a couple months later just to get another ultrasound check-in to make sure that nothing was wonky about the way my IUD was still in my body, just because I was a little bit concerned about it. So after I left, between that day and then that 3-month check-in that I put on the calendar with them, I was still spotting pretty much every day, if not every other day. I had really bad period cramps and PMS symptoms. I never really experienced cramping or heavy periods when I was on the pill, but when I got my period in these first couple of months, it was very intense. I felt all of those feelings. I felt the bloating before, I felt the mood swings. The mood swings were a big part of it for me. I felt my mood go up and down over the course of those first 3 months. It was honestly really jarring. I felt like I had always had control over my emotions, but a lot of the times over those first 3 months, I just felt like I didn't, and that was not a fun feeling. And I don't know if this is backed by any scientific evidence, but I feel like my hormones were just adjusting to the fact that they were receiving almost like stabilizers every single day, and now there was nothing, so they were really just free to do their own thing, and I think it all kind of came out in those first couple months. I didn't get all of the acne and the weight gain. My skin was relatively fine, and any weight gain I didn't really notice. Those side effects only lasted for the first 3 months. After that 3-month check-in, I felt like everything mellowed out, or I just got used to them, or my body just got used to having my period without any hormones at all, and I was really able to stabilize. And at that 3-month check-in where I did get another ultrasound, the IUD is still looking good. I still was concerned about the spotting, but she said it could last like 3 to 6 months with this IUD, so it really wasn't that much of a concern that things were still bleeding. I still got my period every month-ish. It was pretty irregular. When I went in for another checkup with my gynecologist, this was a while later, this might have just been a pap smear, I was telling her about my regular periods, and I ended up, and this is on my ovaries, those are two like indicators of PCOS. I ended up getting some blood work done to see if my hormones were imbalanced. High testosterone is also an indicator of PCOS. And when I found out that I did have high testosterone, that's when I ended up making the decision to get my IUD taken out last October so that I could see what my body was like with absolutely nothing in it and really figure out if I did have PCOS or not. That was recommended by my endocrinologist, actually, I went to after the gyno. But all in all, I was really happy with my IUD experience. I know I just talked a lot about the downsides and the painful process and the cramps that came afterwards, but I thought it was 10 times better than having to take birth control. That 10 minutes of pain and then the cramps and then the spotting that followed was all worth it for me. And at the end of the day, I was happy that I was learning more about how my body was without birth control. I was able to learn about how I acted in my luteal phase versus my follicular phase and what I needed to do to kind of make myself feel good during those phases of my period. And I liked being more in tune with my body in that way, knowing when I was about to get my period, being able to feel it, and then being in different. So I definitely recommend getting an IUD if you are interested for whatever reason. After all of the pain, it really was smooth sailing from there. And I hope this video was helpful to give people a better understanding of what getting an IUD means. I know that I did a lot of research when I was getting mine, and I definitely watched a few of these videos. And let me know if you had a similar or different experience. I could talk about this kind of stuff forever, so let me know what you're thinking. And thanks for watching.